They cropped me out of the family portrait and told me not to take it personally, so I mailed them a letter. Inside was every secret they thought I'd forgotten, and the deed to the house they didn't know I owned. It came in the form of a group email, subject line, Family Reunion 2023, quote dot, classic mom move, cheery emojis, exclamation marks, CC to everyone in the known family universe. Except for me. I wasn't in the CC field, not even in BCC. I only saw it because my cousin Todd forwarded it, thinking I was already looped in. Hey bro, he wrote. Didn't realize you were skipping this year. You good? I stared at the screen like it had insulted me directly. The last time I skipped a family event, I had the flu, a fever of 103, and still offered to Venmo Brittany for the potato salad I was supposed to bring. This year, I'd booked time off work, cleared my schedule, even bought a new pair of boat shoes, because nothing says please love me like footwear that squeaks on dock planks. So I did what any slightly wounded adult child with mild confrontation trauma would do. I called my mom. She picked up on the second ring. Sweetheart, so good to hear your voice. Translation. I know I got caught. Hey, I just got forwarded the reunion invite, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Is there a different list, or... A pause. Just long enough for the dread to bubble. Oh, she said, light as air. We didn't think you'd want to come this year. You've been so busy. Busy. That was new code for not convenient. I took time off work, I said. I already booked the days. Another pause, then a sigh. Well, there's been a little tension. Brittany just felt like it might be better if... There it was. Brittany. Again. Like some recurring villain in a sitcom that stopped being funny after season 4. Flo. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't argue. Just let the silence hang. On her end, I heard kitchen sounds. Clinking silverware. The microwave beeping. Maybe even laughter in the background. Like the party had already started, and I was the last one to realize I wasn't on the guest list. I hung up before she could finish the sentence. Didn't slam the phone down or scream. Just clicked end call and sat there, staring at the wall like it might offer insight. That night, I dug out my old storage bin. The one labeled taxes/important stuff/proof I'm not crazy. Inside were printed bank statements, utility bills, signed checks, receipts with my name in bold across the top. Mortgage help? Me. Brittany's emergency dental work? Also me. Wi-Fi for the family plan? Guess who? The down payment on mom and dad's car? Bingo. I added it all up. $7,143.29 since last August. And that didn't include groceries or little things like streaming subscriptions and Amazon orders that magically ship to their house but billed to my account. They said I was too sensitive when I brought it up. Said I was keeping score. No, I was just finally admitting the scoreboard existed. The next morning I did something I hadn't done in years. Moon. I said no. Quietly. Cleanly. I logged into every account I'd opened for them. The water bill. The gas. Netflix. Spotify. The cell phone plan. I changed passwords. Set termination dates. Scheduled disconnections. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Because here's the thing no one ever tells you. When your love becomes a transaction, silence is how they tip. That weekend, the group chat buzzed with reunion photos. Brittany's kids by the lake. Dad flipping burgers. Mom holding a mason jar cocktail and smiling like a magazine ad for functional dysfunctional families. I wasn't sad. I was exhausted. Not because they left me out, but because I'd spent years begging to be included in something that never saw me as more than a backup wallet with a good credit score and bad boundaries. The next day, I did one more thing. Something just for me. Tex Halad. I wrote a letter. Not angry, not dramatic, just factual. I included a list of every expense I'd covered. No commentary. Just numbers. Attached a notarized document that said, as of now, I was no longer financially responsible for anything tied to their names. Hexax, then I dropped it in the mail. Hexax. No return address. Just one sentence at the bottom. You said I wasn't part of the family, so I'm making it official. If you ask my mom about Brittany, she lights up like someone plugged her into a wall socket. No. She's just so vibrant, isn't she? She'll gush. Always the life of the party. Which is true, I guess, if the party is a reality show reunion, and Brittany's the one throwing drinks and crying about how misunderstood she is. Mal. She's the golden child. The favorite. The whirlwind with a good heart, which really just means she can be a mess as long as she's cute about it. And me? I was reliable. A word that, in my family, translated to, "You'll pay for it, won't you?" Growing up, Brittany was always center stage. Dance recitals, pageants, honors assemblies where she somehow got a trophy for most potential despite never doing homework. My role? Clap, drive, help carry her props. At Christmas, she got the big-ticket gifts. Phones, concert tickets, once even a puppy. I got socks and a calendar with inspirational quotes. One year, Mom laughed and said, "Well, you're hard to shop for. You don't need anything." That line stuck with me. You don't need anything. That's how they treated me. Like someone who didn't need love, attention, or fairness. Just someone to quietly support the rest of the circus. And I played my part. I was the good son. Helped out. Didn't complain. Paid my way. Covered extras. Let things slide. File. Until the day I saw the portrait. My achel? It was hanging above the mantel at my parents' place. Huge. Professionally done. Coordinated outfits. Soft blues and whites. Like a toothpaste commercial. There was Mom and Dad in the middle, arms around Brittany and her kids. Even Todd made it in. And he lives in Wisconsin. But me? Nowhere. Not even cropped. Erased. Like I'd never existed. I stared at it for a full 10 seconds before Mom noticed me noticing. "Oh," she said too quickly. "That was from last fall. You were out of town, remember?" I wasn't. I had dinner with them the night before that shoot. Brittany told me to swing by if I was bored, like I was some kind of backup guest in my own family. I said I might, but I didn't think it mattered. Apparently it did. Or didn't, depending on how you look at it. When I asked, very calmly, why no one texted or reminded me, Dad shrugged. "It was a last-minute thing," he said, flipping channels. "Didn't seem worth making a fuss." Didn't seem worth making a fuss. That line hit harder than it should have. That was the real message, wasn't it? The portrait wasn't just a picture, it was a declaration, a quiet removal. Like someone edited the group and said, "This feels cleaner." After that, I stopped pretending I was imagining things, because once you see it, really see it, it's impossible to unsee. Like how Brittany can rack up $1,300 in therapy retreats, and Mom will call it healing. But when I buy a new pair of shoes, it's frivolous spending. Or how I get grilled about every holiday plan. "Are you sure you're coming? Don't cancel last minute." While Brittany can show up 2 hours late, no text, and they greet her like she just returned from war. One Thanksgiving, I brought a homemade pie. Brittany brought store-bought mac and cheese still in the plastic. Guess which one got photographed for Facebook? Sheer rate. It was always like that. She was fireworks. I was a flashlight. Useful in a power outage. Otherwise ignored. Hell. And the wild part? I didn't even realize how deep it went until I stopped showing up. Hell. The text slowed. The calls stopped. Nobody asked where I'd been. "No. We missed you at dinner." Just radio silence. Like I'd hit unsubscribe on a newsletter, and they were glad to lose a reader. Meanwhile, Brittany was thriving. Spa selfies, inspirational quotes about boundaries from someone who wouldn't recognize a boundary if it kicked her in the shin. She started an Etsy shop that sold air-dried herbs and called herself a, quote, holistic consultant. No one knew what that meant, but Mom talked about it like Brittany had invented fire. They told me I was jealous. Not to my face. But I saw the texts once, accidentally. Left open on Mom's tablet while I was fixing the Wi-Fi. A message from Brittany. "He just can't stand that I'm actually happy now." Mom replied with a thumbs-up emoji and the words, "Don't let him bring you down." That was it. No defense, no balance. Just two people rewriting the narrative to make me the villain in a story I didn't even get a script for. That night, I went home and started scanning my finances. Again, it wasn't just about the money. It was about what the money represented. A contract I never signed. A role I never auditioned for. A weight I'd carried for so long, I forgot what it felt like not to. Incented. I'd been the support beam for a house that didn't think I belonged in the family photo. Incented. So I stopped. Incented. Stopped replying. Stopped offering. Stopped paying. Oxy. Let the group chat keep buzzing. Let the family events roll on without me. Let Brittany be the center of a universe I no longer wanted a seat in. Because if they could crop me out that easily, maybe it was time I stepped all the way out. I didn't start with the power bill. That would have been too dramatic, too obvious. I wanted it to feel quiet, intentional, like a tide pulling back before the wave hits. First thing I did was pause the auto pay for the streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Disney Plus. I let the next billing cycle roll through. Just enough runway for confusion to kick in before chaos landed. Then I logged into the family phone plan. 5 lines. Only one of them mine. Brittany's iPhone, the most expensive model they offered. Mom's Android, set to installment payments I'd been covering for 19 months. Dad's flip phone, somehow still costing $45 a month. I clicked cancel line on all but one. Then I hit the credit card. The emergency use only one I'd handed over 3 years ago when Dad's knee went out and insurance refused to cover half the surgery. Somehow, it had turned into Brittany's personal fund. There was a charge last month for a healing crystal cleanse and a retreat labeled Wild Woman Weekend. I didn't even want to Google it. Doc Hope, I changed the password, froze the card, reported the most recent charges as unauthorized. Because they were. Then, finally, I opened the spreadsheet. Yeah, I had one. Titled, Family Contributions Do Not Share. I'd been tracking things. Not obsessively, but enough. Every payment. Every, I'll Venmo you later, that never landed. Every charge that started as temporary and became tradition. The grand total? $7,388.16. $7,000. A used car. 2 months rent. A cruise. And I hadn't taken a vacation in 4 years. When I didn't rage. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at the number like it was a horoscope finally making sense. This was why I always felt tired. Not broke, not bankrupt, just emotionally overdrawn. Because it was never about the money. It was about the way they expected it. The way every thank you came with a side of guilt. Like they were doing me a favor by letting me support them. Money. So I kept going. The way they gas bill? Cancelled. The way they set to terminate Tuesday at 8 a.m. Water? I gave them a 5-day grace period. I'm not a monster. And through all of it, no one noticed. Not at first. Group chat still pinged with memes. Brittany still posted selfies with captions like, Healed Girl Summer. Mom sent out an email asking if anyone could help cover snacks for the next family get-together. I stared at it for a full minute before deleting it. Then, day 3, the texts started. First from Brittany. Brittany, is the Wi-Fi down or is it just me? LOL, I'm in the middle of a Zoom reading with my energy coach. Pow. No punctuation. No context. No idea I was the one who paid for the free internet she loved so much. Next came Dad. Dad, hey, your mom's freaking out. Water's low pressure or something. You around? I stared at it. No hi. No how are you? Just a utility issue wrapped in parental panic. I didn't respond. Then came the call. Mom's number. 4:32 p.m. I let it ring. Let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one. Instead, she called again 2 hours later. This time she did leave a message. Sweetheart, we're having some issues over here. I don't know if it's the bank or what, but a bunch of stuff's been shut off. Brittany can't work without the internet. Can you just check? Just check. Like I was the manager of the life she forgot she handed me. A bowl, wad you furred. I almost laughed. Instead, I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. One last task. A bowl. I drafted an email. Subject line. Account transfers, effective immediately. In the body, I included all account info. The ones I'd opened in my name. The ones I'd paid for. I listed what was canceled, what was in transition, and what they needed to take over. Walkstrawn, the ones I'd opened in fun. No accusations. No sob story. Just facts. A spreadsheet in human form. Walkstrawn. At the end, I wrote one sentence. Consider this a professional courtesy and a personal boundary. Then I sent it to Mom, Dad, and Brittany. Brittany responded first. Brittany, wow. Real mature. You could have just said something. I didn't reply. Because I had said something. 100 times. In 1,000 ways. Every bill I paid. Every holiday I funded. Every time I showed up and got ignored. That was me saying something. They just didn't hear it until the Wi-Fi went dark. The knock came 2 days after the water shut off. I knew it was coming. I'd been expecting it, even marked it in my calendar like an event. Family meltdown approx. ETA. Thursday afternoon. Right on schedule, I heard 3 sharp knocks, followed by a 4th that was less a knock and more a, you better open this door before I huff and puff and blow it down. I peeked through the peephole. Brittany. In full meltdown regalia. Leggings, designer hoodie, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, and a phone in her hand like a weapon. Behind her, Mom, frazzled, flustered, flipping through a manila folder like she was auditioning for Law and Order, Utility Crimes Unit. Dad was leaning against the car, arms crossed, looking like the bouncer of a bar he didn't even want to be at. I opened the door slowly. Alel. Brittany didn't wait. What the hell, dude? The water? I leaned on the frame. Afternoon to you, too. Mom stepped forward, voice trembling like she was trying to hold both her tone and her sanity. We just want to talk. That line. Classic opener. Translation. You're the problem, and we need you to fix it so we can go back to pretending everything's fine. Then talk. I said, stepping aside just enough for them to enter, but not enough to invite comfort. They filed in like a jury, not a family. Brittany flopped onto the couch like she owned it. Mom hovered near the dining table, hands clasped. Dad stayed standing. Of course. We're concerned, Mom started. That's new, I muttered, just loud enough. Brittany whipped around. You think this is funny? There were kids at the house. They couldn't even flush the toilet. Then maybe don't cut out the guy paying for the plumbing, I said, level as a line graph. Dad finally spoke. This has gone too far. I looked at him. You mean the part where I stopped funding the household I was banned from? Mom held up the manila folder. This has all the receipts. Everything we've been through. You can't just walk away from your family. You're right, I said. I can't walk away. Because you already shut the door. I just stopped knocking. Brittany rolled her eyes so hard. I swear I heard cartilage shift. You're punishing us. No, I said. I'm correcting a mistake. One I let go on too long. Dad stepped forward. You think we don't appreciate you? I think you only appreciated what I provided. The second I stopped delivering, the mask slipped. Mom's voice broke in, soft, but shaky. Sweetheart, you've always been the strong one. We didn't mean to. To what? I cut in. Erase me from the portrait? Tell Brittany I ruined the vibe? Let me pay for your lives while pretending I'm too sensitive when I ask for respect? Dead silence. Not even the fridge dared to hum. Then Brittany stood. This is dramatic. You're acting like a victim when all you did was pay a few bills. I pulled up the spreadsheet on my phone. Flipped it around. $7,388.16, not counting the spa retreat you charged to my card or the emergency flight to Vegas last fall. Her jaw dropped. You went through my transactions? I went through my statements. You just happened to be the unauthorized recurring theme. Dad started pacing. Always his move when things went sideways. All right, enough. This isn't solving anything. You're right, I said. It's ending something. That's when I opened the drawer. Pulled out an envelope. Laid it on the coffee table. Inside, a notarized letter releasing me from any financial obligation tied to their names. Car lease. Phone plan. All of it. They didn't touch it. I pointed at it. That's the new boundary. You don't call me when the internet's down. You don't text me asking if I can spot you until payday. You don't forward me bills like they're birthday cards. Mom looked like she'd been slapped with a memory. But we're your parents. And I'm not your insurance policy. That line landed. Hard, Brittany scoffed. You're gonna regret this, I smiled. Already don't. She stormed out first, muttering something about toxicity and boundaries, with a weird blend of yoga teacher and reality TV star. Mom stood there a little longer. You're really cutting us off? I shook my head. No, I'm just not bleeding for you anymore. She nodded slowly. Didn't argue. Just followed Brittany out, Envelope still untouched. Dad lingered. Always the last one to admit the house is burning. Howie Alifa. He looked at me. You've changed. No, I said. I've just stopped pretending. Then I closed the door and locked it. They didn't respond right away. No texts, no calls, not even a cryptic post from Brittany with a passive-aggressive quote about snakes in the grass or cutting out toxic people in swirly pink font. It was silent. And for a minute I wondered if that was it, if they'd finally decided to leave me alone the way I'd been asking for. But then, 3 days later, a letter showed up in my mailbox. Not an email, not a voicemail. An actual letter, written in Mom's handwriting, the same neat cursive she used on Christmas cards and guilt notes taped to the fridge when I was a kid. We raised you better than this. That was the opening line. No dear, no love, just a sentence so sharp it could have been printed on a warning label. She went on about how family is about forgiveness, how money should never come between blood, how Brittany was struggling and how I was stronger, so shouldn't I be the bigger person? And the final blow. You'll always be our son, even if you've forgotten what that means. I folded it up, slid it back into the envelope, and dropped it in the trash. I didn't even blink. Because here's what they still didn't get. This wasn't about forgetting. It was about remembering. Remembering how many birthdays I spent alone, how many holidays I paid for, how many times I was expected to fund their peace while sacrificing mine. But I wasn't angry anymore. Warbap Bay, Isa was finished. Wartelli. That night, I opened my laptop, created a new document. I titled it, For the Record, and I wrote it all down. Not a journal, not a rant, a record. Clean, factual, damning in its restraint. Dates, payments, quotes, emails, texts, screenshots. I wrote it like a report, like evidence, because it was billity. And when I was done, I printed 2 copies. Text, one for myself, billity, and one for them, billity. But that second one, I didn't mail it. Not yet. First, I added one more page. The Who's, a copy of a deed transfer. The house, their house. They didn't know I was on the paperwork. Not until Brittany's business tanked and they needed a loan co-signer. Back then, I agreed. Because it's just a formality and we'll refinance in a year. They never did. Which meant I was still legally part owner. And in the months after that, well, I did what they always told me to do. I planned ahead. I watched the market, talked to someone, got advice, got smart. Havia. Then I filed the paperwork. Profia. I sold my share. Cray. Not to a stranger. To a property group. A clean transaction. Silent. Legal. May key. The buyer wanted to develop the neighborhood. Raise rent. Push out long-term residents. I didn't love that part. But I also didn't lose sleep over it, because I'd spent years paying for a house I never felt at home in. And now? Now they'd have to decide whether it was worth buying me out, or moving on. I tucked that final page on top of the printed record, clipped it together, sealed it in an envelope. On the front, I wrote, "You left me out of the picture. I'm just returning the favor." I mailed it that night, no return address. Just my handwriting, clean and unshaken. Then I poured a glass of wine, opened a book, let the silence hum. The next morning, my phone rang. Mom, I didn't answer. Dad texted, "We need to talk." I didn't reply. Then Brittany, of course. "Are you insane?" I turned off my phone, Capsca. Because they always said I was too cold, too distant, too calculated. Mom, they weren't wrong. But here's the thing. When the fire's always burning, you don't put it out by being warm. You freeze it out. The first thing I noticed was the quiet. Not the tense, eggshell kind that lived in my parents' house, where even a cough during a tense dinner felt like a personal attack, but actual gentle silence. The kind you don't realize you've been craving until it wraps around you like a blanket. No group texts buzzing, no surprise Venmo requests, no calls asking for a quick favor. Just space. At first it felt unnatural, like I was forgetting something. I kept checking my phone like an old reflex, waiting for the next crisis I was supposed to solve. But it never came. And once the noise died down, I realized how loud it had all been. Every time they needed something, every "can you just?" every guilt-tripped ask disguised as a compliment. It had been a kind of static, the kind you live with so long, you start thinking it's just the way the world sounds. Ha! Turns out, it's not. The world, when you're not being used as a family ATM, sounds a lot like your own thoughts finally getting a turn to speak. So I started listening. I started doing small things for myself. Nothing dramatic. No, I quit my job and moved to a cabin kind of stuff. Just normal. Human. I started cooking. Real food. The kind that fills your kitchen with smells that make you feel like you live somewhere you chose. I burnt the first 2 attempts at chicken. Third time, I nailed it. You'd have thought I won Top Chef the way I celebrated with my spatula. I bought a cheap used guitar off Facebook Marketplace. My fingers hated it. The strings bit into my skin. But after a couple weeks, I could play a shaky version of Landslide without sounding like I was hurting the instrument. I started sleeping better. No middle-of-the-night worry spirals about overdraft fees or whether Brittany's car insurance autopay was about to bounce. And then I bumped into someone. Taylor. We knew each other back in college. Same major. We were partners on a group project once. She carried the team, I cracked the jokes. We lost touch after graduation. But there she was, at a local bookstore, flipping through a copy of Educated like it was a breakup letter she'd read a dozen times. Fuckers. We made eye contact, blinked, and smiled like, well, this is unexpected. We grabbed coffee. 1 cup turned into 3. We talked about old professors, post-college disappointment, dogs we almost adopted, the weird way adulthood feels like improv without a script. Eventually, she asked, "So you still close with your family?" I didn't dodge, didn't soften. I just looked her in the eye and said, "No, not really." She nodded. No judgment. No surprise. Just sipped her coffee and said, "Yeah, me neither." It wasn't some cinematic moment where violins swelled and trauma bonded us in a single shot. It was better than that. It was real. Mecha was reasi. We kept hanging out. Not as broken people, just as people. Messy. Learning. Trying. Tech-tibers. I told her everything eventually. The cropped-out portrait. The money. The letter. Hell I-see. She didn't flinch. Mad. Didn't call me dramatic. Didn't ask if I'd tried to make peace. She just said, "That sounds awful." And brave. And then she asked, "What does life look like now?" That question stuck with me, because I hadn't really thought about it. Life had always been about managing emotions, finances, expectations. I'd never stopped to ask what building something for me might look like. So I started figuring it out. I went back to school, community college, just a couple classes at first. Writing, child development. Something about how trauma sits in the body like furniture you can't rearrange. Shah. I got a part-time job shelving books at the library. Quiet work. Honest. The kind of job where nobody's asking if you're going to cover the internet bill before the weekend. And in between those things, I wrote nothing for clicks or claps. Just stories. Observations. Fragments of things I never gave myself permission to say out loud. One of them, about family, about guilt, about the cost of being the responsible one. I posted online, no fanfare, no hashtags. I titled it Cropped. And I didn't expect anything, but the next day, I woke up to emails. Not hundreds, just a few, but each one said the same thing. I thought I was the only one. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel alone. The message came late, 10:42 p.m. on a Wednesday. I was halfway through a documentary about national parks and debating if I had the energy to microwave leftovers. Voicemail from Mom. No missed call. Just the message. Like she didn't even want to risk talking to me live. I stared at the screen, thought about deleting it. Instead, I pressed play. "Hi, sweetheart," her voice started, soft like she was already bracing for impact. I hope you're okay. Brittany's going through a hard time, and the house feels different without you. I know you're angry. I know we messed up. But you're still our son. Pause. We love you. I miss you. Click. No sobbing. No begging. Just that tired, stretched voice that used to say, "I'm proud of you," when I got a scholarship. And "Don't make this about you," when Brittany needed the spotlight again. I listened twice. Not for the content, just to see if I felt anything. But I didn't. Not rage. Not relief. Just quiet. Like someone finally stopped knocking on a door I had already boarded shut. Hiss. I didn't call her back. Not Roem. Not Roem. Not Roem. Didn't text. Didn't screenshot the voicemail and send it to Taylor with a snarky caption. I just deleted it and made dinner because I knew what that call really was. Not a reunion. Not an apology. Just a soft reset attempt from someone who'd gotten used to me being the first responder to every family emergency. And now, I wasn't on duty anymore. Poses. The next few weeks passed like slow sunlight. Everything warm, still, a little brighter than I remembered. I kept working at the library. Took another writing class. Taylor and I went hiking. She made fun of my trail shoes. I mocked her granola obsession. Hey, Sakal. We didn't talk about family much. Hey, Sakal. But when we did, it wasn't with shame. Just understanding. Like people who knew what it meant to finally stop bleeding for people who never noticed the cuts. I kept writing. I kept writing. And eventually I published Cropped for Real. Small press, no press tour. Just a clean paperback and a quiet release. Bivis. It hit a chord. Letters started coming in. Emails. Teachers saying they used it in class. Readers saying it made them cry. Or breathe. Or finally cut the cord on a toxic tie they'd been told was just love. And then one day, I got another letter, handwritten, no return address, same cursive, teacher saying Quarch. I opened it on my porch. Sun on my face. Cold drink sweating in my hand. It read, "We saw your book. We're not angry, just hurt. You didn't have to share everything. But maybe you needed to. I hope you're well. Your father and I are moving. Downsizing. Let us know if you want anything from the house." I folded it. Didn't cry. Didn't rage. Just smiled. Because that was the final turn of the page. They were letting go. Not with grace. Not with closure. But with the same quiet dismissal they'd given me my whole life. "He means you were letting go." And this time, one for a tilde. I wasn't asking for a spot in the portrait. Means you were letting go. I already had my own wall now. In my apartment, in the life I built. Not borrowed, not bailed out, not balanced on guilt and bank transfers, just mine. One photo hung above my desk. Hackle. Me and Taylor. Hiking boots. Matching sunburns. Our dog, Rusty, photobombing with his tongue out like a maniac. We looked like chaos and calm all at once. And I loved it. Because in that picture, there's no one cropped out. There's no one cropped out. There's no performance, no family politics. No one faking peace for the sake of a holiday brunch. Just real people. Whole people. And I realized, after everything, I didn't need an apology. I didn't need to be welcomed back. I didn't need to be forgiven for choosing peace. What I needed was exactly what I had. A quiet life. A full heart. And the last word. Written not in revenge, but in freedom.